Hello everyone and welcome to another amazing game. This one is from round 6 of the second Piatigorsky Cup 1966 yeah, another game by Bobby Fischer. We've covered one by Spassky, one by Fischer, and we're gonna go back and forth until we reach that moment where they clash in the second part of the tournament, of course. And here Robert James Fischer faces the Great Dane, Bent Larsen, who is known for, many things. He's an amazing player, a brilliant player, creative player, very, very imaginative style. He is most known for his pawn to b3, I guess, amongst casual players. This is the Nymsa Larsen opening. And of course, he is most known for his famous candidates match against Bobby Fischer in 1971 on their road to who will challenge Boris Spassky for the title. Now, for those of you who still haven't seen that and don't know the result of that match, I'm not going to spoil it, but for those of you who do know, well, you know what's what. First link in the description below will be also a link to all of the games in the Bobby Fischer saga if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, we've skipped the first two games where Fischer faced Križevci and Portish. Those two games were a draw. Then we covered the game Fischer versus Borislav Ivkov. It was a pretty solid win against Ivkov. Then another two draws. Fischer draws against Dona and Uncika, and now he faces Bent Larsen. And yeah, let's check it out. It's a beautiful game, quite a lot of theory in it, and then all of a sudden, well, I don't know if I can make my own decision about what happened here. I mean, of course I can, and I have. I'm just not gonna present it to you. I would rather if you made the choice yourself, or yourselves, because it's hard to say if this can be dismissed as a fluke, or is there brilliancy involved? So I will need your help with that one. So okay, let's check it out. It's a very short game. Fischer has the white pieces, opens with pawn to e4. Bent replies with pawn to e5, knight f3, knight to c6, and as anyone who ever played this position against Bobby Fischer, bishop to b5. Bobby Fischer was a strict rule Lopez player. Pawn to a6, Morphy's defense by Bent, bishop to a4, and knight to f6. We have castles kingside, and the knight captures on e4. We have pawn to d4, pawn to b5, bishop goes to b3, and of course pawn to d5. This is well, still all very well-known theory. D captures on e5, we have bishop to e6, pawn to c3, and now bishop to c5, putting pressure on that f2 pawn. We have knight b to d2 and castles kingside by Bent. We have bishop to c2 and bishop to f5, strengthening the knight on e4. We have knight b3 attacking the bishop, bishop to g4, not reacting to the bishop here. You could also play bishop to b6. I'm pretty sure everyone would play this pretty much in automatic. But Bent goes bishop to g4, which was the top theory of the time. Knight captures on c5, knight captures on c5, and now rook to e1. We have rook to e8, and here bishop to e3. And interestingly, it is now as of move 15 that this position has never been reached again. Some years later, or rather a decade later, for example, Anatoly Karpov, the world champion who will be world champion after Bobby Fischer, used to play bishop to f4 in this position, and he played quite a few times, specifically against another former world champion, Vasily Smyslov. But here we have bishop e3, and okay, the knight is attacked. What do you do here? Knight back to e6, of course, makes sense. And who wouldn't play queen to d3 here? It's such a nice move. You develop, you threaten queen captures on h7. It is the top move recommended by the engine. Of course, Fischer plays it. Pawn to g6, stopping queen captures on h7. And now bishop to h6. Fischer grabs more space, and he says, all right, I sense you have weakened the dark squares. Time to create some sort of a checkmating attack there. And you could maybe play bishop captures on f3, but it is better to keep the tension. We have knight to e7, the knight might be able to come to f5. Also, bishop to f5 is very, very interesting. So Fischer goes knight to d4, and it's a very tricky move by Fischer. He's hoping that Bent falls into the trap. Obviously, we're not going to play bishop to f5 now because the knight can just capture it. So maybe, knight captures on d4 happens. He thought maybe this happens, and then Bent will want to play bishop to f5. But Fischer's plan was not to strengthen his center. His plan was to play queen captures on d4. And now look at this terrible threat of just e6. How are you stopping that? Knight f5, yes, it covers g7, but there's the bishop here. You're going to capture that knight. So there's no defense here. You could block the pawn with bishop to e6, but then comes queen f4. Look at how weak the dark squares are. And if you move the knight to control the dark squares with the black queen, then the bishop shifts from h6 to f6, and that's it. You're going to have to put a queen on a light square, bishop f6, and with all of black's pieces on light squares, Fischer's plan is to play queen h6 and checkmate the black king. There is no stopping that. So after knight d4, Bent plays the exact move. Fischer tried to make him not play. The trick didn't work. Plays bishop to f5, and okay, knight captures on f5, knight captures on f5, and now bishop back to d2 as the bishop on h6 is hanging. So bishop to d2, queen to h4. Bent also brings a queen into the attack, and Fischer brings the queen all the way back to f1. He's planning pawn to g3 to attack the black queen, and he doesn't want the queen to be able to come to h3. And also, if queen c4, offering a queen trade, he will be able to move the queen to g2. So we have knight c5, pawn to g3, queen to c4 attacking Fischer's queen, and Fischer just plays queen to g2. We have knight to d3. You have to trade now because, well, the rook and the pawn are hanging, and if you lose that e5 pawn, it's pretty much game over. So bishop captures on d3, queen captures, and now bishop to g5. Again, Fischer trying to grab hold of those dark squares and somehow checkmate Larsen's king. We have pawn to c6. And pawn to g4. That knight is very annoying there, and also you need to move the pawn in order to lift the rook. Rook e3, rook to h3, and we are getting closer to that black king, or so Fischer thought. Larsen played knight to g7. We have rook to e3, beautifully attacking the queen, and now Larsen plays a very, very nice move. Queen to d2. And it looks odd putting your queen, being x-rayed by the bishop like this, but the queen is also x-raying the bishop, and you can't really just move the rook anywhere. There are no good threats with the rook, so you have to defend this bishop somehow. Fischer plays b3 as the pawn on b2 was a target, and now you could play a lot of moves here. Larsen plays pawn to b4, as one always should. Puts pressure on Fischer's c3 pawn, and Fischer has to realize that he is no longer the one attacking here. He has to play f3, offer a queen trade, and that's it. Once Larsen captures the pawn, Fischer should trade queens and then just blockade the pawn, capture the pawn, and continue this game. Probably slightly better for Larsen, but nothing spectacular. However, after this pawn to b4 move, Fischer said, nope, probably, suffering from legendary fever, as Fischer often has been, played queen to h3. And it's okay, we realize what he's trying to do. He's trying to go queen h6, bishop f6, rook h3, and either play queen captures on g7 or queen captures on h7. And it doesn't really seem like there's anything Bent can do to stop this. However, there is one move. Can you see what move that is? It's pretty, not the move that comes to mind while, just looking at the position. What would you play here? The tricky move is ignoring all of these threats and just playing b captures on c3. This is what Bent played, and now it becomes very interesting. Okay, the rook cannot capture. We know that the bishop is not defended. So what can Fischer play? There is a move that sort of allows him to stay in the game, but that move is not an easy one to find. He has to play bishop to h6. And the reason is the bishop is defended on h6. Now you are threatening rook captures on c3. So of course c2 would have been played, and now you will play rook d3 to stop any queen d1 action, and also to stop pawn to c1 check, as both the bishop and the rook are guarding the c1 square. So you're going to have to play something like queen to b4, and now bishop to d2 kicks away the queen, and after something like queen e4, you will finally grab that pawn, but black will capture on e5, and it will be a much better, potentially even already winning position for Larsen. But it is the best Fischer has. Fischer, however, played queen to h6. He does not see what is wrong with this position, but luckily for you guys, you do, and unluckily for Fischer, so did Larsen. So what did he play here? Feel free to pause the video and find the only winning idea for Bent while I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this incredible idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight to e6. this is what Bent played, and he was in this position on move 30 that Bobby Fischer resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. What Fischer probably thought would happen here, he was planning on pawn to c2, most likely, and then his plan is a very simple one. He's going to play queen captures on h7. If the king goes here, then it's checkmate. If king captures on h7, then you play rook h3 check, and you pick up the queen on d2. And okay, it's a pretty equal position. The game continues. The rook can capture on c5, rook c1 will capture the pawn on c2. And okay, it continues probably a little bit better for black, but yeah, it can be played. However, after this knight to e6 move, there is no way to continue. And I will continue it because I just want to show you what... how futile resistance would be here. Now, the reason why it's so strong is that now bishop g5 is sort of attacked twice, because Fischer's plan was either we play bishop f6 and then checkmate the black king, obviously impossible as the knight stops that. The other plan was rook to h3, but now even that is impossible because knight captures on g5 will guard the h7 pawn, and the knight is defended, and also the rook is hanging, so this is dead loss for Fischer. So the only thing you could do after knight to e6 is play pawn to h4, defend the bishop twice, but it doesn't matter. Look at this, and it's beautiful. Pawn to c2. Now we're gonna play rook e1. Of course, you're not gonna allow the pawn to queen. Now comes knight captures on g5. You trade everything and you go into an endgame. There's no point in capturing with the h pawn because you're out of checkmating material. So queen captures, h captures, and now the problem is no longer just the c pawn, it's the d pawn, and there's no way to counter it. Rook e2, you're going to play d3, rook d2, and you're going to defend it. And it seems like, okay, maybe we can still play somehow. No, you can't. Even if you, let's say, play f4, rook to d4, you go after this pawn. King to f2, you defend the d3 pawn again, so you can capture. Okay, the king defends. Now you play c5. And what can white play here? Okay, let's say king e3, a5. No useful moves for white. You're just going to shuffle the rooks back and forth. Rook to c1, a4. Okay, you open up the position. Rook back to a1. Okay, you can trade. Captures. And now you start bringing the king into the game. And the point is that because of the threat of queening c1 check, this rook can never move. Because of the threat pawn to d2, this rook can never move. And the king would like to move, but the king has nowhere to go. So basically what... Larsen's plan here would be is to just shuffle his king all the way to b4, as all of the games are won via the b4 square, capture on b3, and then just play something like even keep the king on d3, play c4, c3, kick away the rook, play d2, and that's pretty much it. We can even show it like king f8, rook c1. The king will slowly but surely make his way into the game, and once the king reaches b4, you will play something, king captures on b3, king f2, and now comes the c pawn. Let's say king e3, no moves for white here, c3, rook to f2, and now d2, and next move, you queen either pawns and win the game. So while there is, you could say, okay, maybe it's a bit early to resign here, maybe you could play the endgame. No, this is known, and there is no way Fischer thought that there is even a slightest chance that Bent makes a mistake in that endgame, because who would? I mean, you wouldn't, your uncle wouldn't. That endgame is won by design. So yeah, brilliant stuff by Bent, and this is where I would like your opinion. Here, when this queen to d2 move was played, okay, this is fine, and after b4, Fischer went for queen h3. Is this a fluke, or is this a brilliancy by Larsen? You guys are here to decide, but he takes down the great Bobby Fischer. Could be, also one of the games that cost him the tournament. We all know the final standings. Spassky won the tournament, clear first, Bobby Fischer second. And it was very, very close, but we all know that it's not only this game. Bobby had a pretty bad start in the first half of the tournament, then he had a brilliant second half of the tournament, but we're gonna get to that and discuss it a little bit more. So what do you think? Fluke or brilliancy? So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Brilliant stuff by Bent Larsen, the great Dane. Later on in his life, he represented Argentina quite a lot, amazing player. But unfortunately for him, he is mostly, as no one is remembered for what they want to be remembered. They are remembered for what they're not proud of the most, and Bent Larsen is remembered for his candidates match against Bobby Fischer in 1971. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Priscilla Woodley, Gerhard Homer, David Gasparian, Farrell Gerald, and Mike Manson for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.